Hi, I'm Mike Marino, and this is a brand new episode of Live from My Mother's Basement. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Live from My Mother's Basement. Sadly, we're not in my mother's basement today. We're in the studio here in North Hollywood, California. But one of the coolest things is I get to have one of my fellow comedians on the show who happens to be doing stand-up for quite some time. And I believe you're originally from California?
No, I'm from Detroit.
All right, so let's introduce him. This is comedian Joey Gaynor.
No! Camen.
Camen. I don't know why I always say Gaynor.
Gaynor's in, oh my God.
Camen. The Camen Islands.
Oh my God, yeah. Don't say that.
Let's start again. Ladies and gentlemen.
Like the Camen
And I thought he
Islands.
was from California.
No.
He's from Detroit.
From Detroit, and it's Camen like Camen Islands.
Camen. Joey Camen.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say Gaynor. Is there a Gaynor?
Yes, there is. Joey Gaynor's a comedian.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's actually from New Jersey.
Oh, is that right?
But he was in California for a lot of time. He's a friend of mine. Old friend of mine.
Oh, well, there you go. I made an innocent mistake. So,
okay.
From Detroit, when did you come to California?
I came to California when I was 17 years old. Right after graduating high school, I came to California, went out to the Comedy Store, auditioned. Mitzi loved me. Then 3 times later, I was made a regular.
Well, you got to explain this to everybody, or I can do it. One of the most iconic comedy clubs probably in the world is the legendary Comedy Store in Los Angeles, California, which is where we are. We're in North Hollywood. Hollywood's probably about 15 minutes from here by going over Laurel Canyon, and boom, you're at the Laugh Factory. Make a right, you're at the Comedy Store. Make a left, you're at the Improv. These are the 3 most powerful comedy clubs probably in the world. And then the super legacy, I would say, would be the Comedy Store because it's still thriving. And at the time he's talking about, he went there to audition. The woman who started it, created it, was Mitzi Shore. Yeah. So go ahead and tell us from there.
Yeah, well, Mitzi took over the club in 72. It was originally her husband's, Sammy Shore, who was a comedian, and he opened it for all his friends and everything. And she got the club in the divorce.
Were you actually there at that time?
No, I was there in 74.
74?
Yeah, Mitzi had already gotten the club in the divorce. Okay. She got the club in the divorce.
Wow, so they got it that fast?
Yeah, she got it in the divorce, and the club was handed over to her, and she was there at the right place at the right time because sitcoms were happening. It was the club to go to in Hollywood. And the Improv wasn't even around then.
Is that right?
No, Mitzi was the soul. She was the queen, man. She had all the sitcom
So
actors.
72, Sammy was running it.
Yeah.
Before 72, was that when it was Ciro's, the restaurant?
No, Ciro's was not a restaurant. Ciro's was one of the biggest nightclubs in Hollywood, bar none. It was the main room of the company was Ciro's. Ciro's was like, forget it. Marilyn Monroe would go there. The biggest acts in the world would perform there. Movie stars, gangsters, everybody. I mean, if you just Google Ciro's, C-I-R-O-S, and there's books written on the place. That's how famous that room was.
I remember when I would be in the kitchen of the Comedy Store back in my time, which was the early 90s. Yeah. You saw all the replicas and the pictures of Ciro's, and they were saying it was a wise guy joint. Yeah. A lot of hit men used to go there, and then Sammy Davis Jr., maybe Frank Sinatra, and guys like that.
Yeah, it was the place to go to in Hollywood. It was the Hollywood nightclub.
Wow.
Okay? And then it became, in the 70s, it was taken over by Art LeBeau. Art LeBeau was a DJ who first created the first...
The comedian?
No, Art LeBeau was a DJ who created the first compilation album, which is like, putting all the songs together. The guy created that. And he owned the club. It was called Art LeBeau's, and it was a disco. So they had the original room, and then Art LeBeau's next to it, and it was this disco. All this crazy shit going on. And I'm just a kid, and I go in there and look at all the girls and stuff, and it was, that was fun.
So when you came over to California, it was in pursuit of stardom.
I wouldn't say stardom. I was escaping a bad home life, and I was a funny kid, and I had never been on stage in my life. And I remember auditioning October 4th, 1974.
I wish I remembered dates like that.
And
I don't have any of my dates.
I auditioned, and Mitzi just loved me. And I went on 3 more times, and she made me a regular. Now, being a regular at the Comedy Store was, I didn't think it was any big deal. I thought, oh, this is how it happens all the time. But no, people people would give a left nut to be a regular at the Comedy Store. And to me, it was no big deal because when I started there, I mean, I just started working with Paul Mooney, Richard Pryor, all these different people at a very young age, and started doing TV shows and things like that. And it was a lot of fun, and I'm still doing it.
Well, that's great because most people, they start out at 17. By the time they're 23, they're working another job and they have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
So at 17, he becomes a regular at the world famous Laugh Factory. Now,
Comedy Store.
The Laugh Factory probably didn't even exist yet, right?
No.
The Comedy Store was difficult to get past. When you get passed by Mitzi Shore and you become what they call the iconic paid regular, you get paid to perform, maybe not a lot of money, but the thing is, you never know who's going to be in that audience discovering the next talent. Plus, you probably saw a lot of talent that nobody knew about yet, and then they went on to become famous. Like even today, you see superstars like Joe Rogan, and the gentleman we just mentioned, his name before we started, has a great podcast as well. What was his name?
Mark Maron.
Mark Maron. And you were lucky enough to go on his show.
Yeah.
I never met him. I do know of him, of course, but that's really, really great.
Yeah.
I remember when I got passed at the Comedy Store, it was probably even more difficult to get in than when you went because all of a sudden when I was going, there must have been 1,000 people trying to get in to do 3 minutes to let this woman see you on a Monday night if she wasn't talking to somebody while you were on. Which
I got so many stories about that.
I bet you got stories.
I mean, I was like, I was friends with their family or kids and stuff. And I mean, I would just, I don't know if I took it for granted. It was just the way it was for me. I mean, I was just always there performing like 6 nights a week.
Wow.
Back in the heyday.
Heyday.
I was getting prime spots in the 80s. And
so tell us now, you get passed at the Comedy Store, you start playing there. I mean, for most people watching and listening right now, probably don't even remember a time where you can actually smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Whether you were on stage or in the audience. I don't think they had a 2-drink minimum yet.
Oh no, they had a 2-drink minimum.
Yeah, you had to drink no matter what.
You had to drink. And the comics would get like 2 free drinks. First, when I started there, I was too young to drink. So I get soft drinks. But I didn't drink anyways, even when the time to get drink tickets, you had these free tickets.
Yeah.
And there'd be like some people would always say, hey, Joey, can I have one of your drink tickets? Yeah, sure, I don't care, take it. But because they would just give me stuff. I'd go back to the bar. Can I have a Perrier water? They give me Perrier water.
So when you started performing at the Comedy Store, now you feel like you're part of the team. You're part of the clique. Or to me, at my time when I started, it was considered your college. You're in college now with all the students going through the system to see where your next big break was going to come from, like maybe the Tonight Show or. Well, did they even have the Tonight Show?
Yeah, they
at
did.
That time? Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Tonight Show goes back to the before Jack Paar in the 60s and the 70s. Oh, yeah. I auditioned for the Tonight Show when I was 20. And at the time, they brought me in to meet Freddie DeCorvita in NBC. And I auditioned for like 10 people in a room at NBC. And I ended up not getting the talent coordinator liked me. And I didn't get it. And I was kind of depressed about that. But I was just 20 years old. So, let it go. And It was a different time, a different era, and my act was different. I did characterizations. I would do black people, old Jewish ladies, a gay preacher, all kinds of wild stuff I couldn't do today. And because it's nothing like how I sound. My act was totally different the way I'm speaking right now. Because I'm a voiceover guy. I was discovered at 18 by Dawes Butler. Dawes Butler is the voice of Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Quick Drum McGraw, Snagglepuss, Jinx, Captain Crunch, Wally.
Oh, really?
That was my mentor when I was 18.
Always the same guy?
Yep, that's all one guy.
Wow, those are classic cartoons.
And he's my mentor.
I never would have thought it was the same guy.
Little guy, 5'2", a little Irishman, super cool. And he liked what he saw in me, and I started studying with him privately, and then he asked to mentor me after a few lessons. Yeah, I was like a kid prodigy, I guess, whatever. I don't know.
Right? Wow.
Yeah.
Classic cartoons.
Yeah. I know. Oh, yeah.
Classics. And now you can't even watch them unless you go somewhere special on the internet.
Yeah, you have to go like I guess Cartoon Network had them for a while. Or
Channel 3. But
yeah.
when cartoons were funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was like, And he was even, I forgot about this, he used to do the voices for, I'm just remembering this now, Fractured Fairy Tales. For Jay Ward, he used to do that too, which was those weird cartoons like Boris and Natasha and all that
Yes.
stuff.
He did that.
He did the Gay Prince, and he did some other stuff on there, some crazy shit on there. Dawes was really... can we swear on this?
Boris and Natasha.
Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
Can we swear on my podcast? I'm from fucking New Jersey.
Hey, for fucking Jersey, hey, forget about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's what I'm doing. Forget about it.
So in 74, 75, 76, what was it like out there?
Well...
I mean, we're talking an era of no internet, no social media.
Oh, it was great. It was great. You didn't have to...
People went to the club because they wanted to see the entertainment, not any one specific person, right?
No, not at all. Well, in those days, yeah, they went to the Comedy Store because it was the thing to do. It was the comedy club in America, in Los Angeles, and you never knew who you were going to see, big stars, whatever. I mean, I was working with Richard Pryor when I was 18 years old, and well, I tell this story a lot, but I'm doing a new one-man show in New York called Laughing Through the Pain. It's about my journey from Detroit to Hollywood stand-up comedy and beyond. And when I was 18 years old, I was performing, professionally. And Richard Pryor saw me, and he was sitting in the back with Paul Mooney, and he wanted to kick my ass. He was going to beat me up because I'm on stage doing black voices. And he was livid. He looked at Paul and said, "Who's this motherfucker? Al Jolson's son? I'm about to whoop his ass." And he wanted to beat me up, and Paul said, "No, please don't. No, it's Joey's my friend." And he wanted to beat me up. And for the longest time, Paul introduced me to him later that night, and he was really cool and everything. I think he was coked out or something. But so I'm an 18-year-old kid, and my nickname for years became Al Jolson's son. Even Mitzi called me Al Jolson's son. Now, you know who Al Jolson is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. The audience doesn't know. Al Jolson was the most famous singer, actor, and comedian from the 1920s to the 40s, and from time to time he sang in blackface. Most famously, My Mammy in the singer, the movie The Jazz Singer. So it was pretty funny that he called me that, and so they nicknamed me that, and I ended up working with him later. They put me on the Richard Pryor Show, which was an iconic 4-episode series. I got to be one of the sketch players.
Oh, so he went from wanting to beat you up to put you on his show.
He was actually, Paul introduced me later that night. He told me he thought I was funny. He was actually very cool. And I hang out with him and talk to him all the time when I saw him. I mean, I never got to go up to his house in Northridge, but we would talk. I mean, I'd ask him questions or, See, I didn't know who he was, really. I just thought I was some crazy black guy want to kick my ass. I actually, the truth is I went out and bought one of his albums because he wasn't that famous in 1975. He'd had That N-Word's Crazy album, which was the big hit. And I went out and bought that and listened to it on my record player. And I was a lifelong fan. And he used to let me open for him at the Comedy Store after that. He was like very cool, and he was just amazing. I've seen him do well over 100 or more performances over the years. Yeah.
Well, when you're at the Comedy Store at that era and you're working your way through the ranks, a lot of people then started to go on the road, right?
Not necessarily. The road comedy clubs didn't happen until like the 80s. Mm-hmm. So before the 80s, I'm pretty sure, the guys might want to correct me on that who know this stuff, but pretty much the 80s were when the comedy clubs started. See, the bad thing about showcase clubs, and a showcase club is where you only get to do 10, 15, 20 minutes. And there's like 20 guys on the thing.
Yeah.
See, the bad thing about them, even though they're popular in Hollywood, you got the Comedy Store, you got the Improv, is that you cannot develop a 45-minute or an hour act because you're not going to get the time. The only ones that got the time were Richard, and Paul Mooney got to do a lot of time because I'd go on before him all the time for years. Hundreds of shows we did together, me and Paul. And he would put him on at the end because he was so radical. The audience would leave. He was so damn funny. And so he would do like 45 minutes in it. He'd get to like last 40 minutes or more, and he could develop his act at the Comedy Store. He could do long times. But most people did not get that kind of time in those days. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing Paul Mooney. He would just keep on going and going and going. But
it was great.
That was also at a time where I was watching Andrew Dice Clay and so many different guys that would go on, let's say, a Sunday night for an hour and a half. And you're like, it's an open mic.
Oh, the pricks. A lot of these comedians are pricks. They would just go in and bump everybody. It's like, fuck you. I don't like all that shit. I mean, I don't want to sound negative, but you know what? if you're a star, and you got other comedians that are your friends, you don't go on there and take their time.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys do that, and it's like, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of guys that did that was not nice. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people get attitudes when they get famous.
A lot of guys did some.
I knew a lot of guys
shit.
way before they were famous, and some stayed the same, and some didn't.
So, what would be like one of your big breaks, or one of the things that came out that was super cool that maybe you were striving for?
Well,
TV is usually what most comedians are striving for.
Yeah, in those days there were different shows. Like I did the Dinah Show, which was a show from it was like the Ellen Show of its day. It was actually harder to get on Dinah than it was the Tonight Show. And the talent coordinator liked me, and I ended up 2 episodes on Dinah with Dinah Shore. That was a pretty big break, and that was like in 1980, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And even before that, when I was 20, I did Don Kirshner's rock concert.
But I remember Don Kirshner.
Yeah, I was on that twice. And in fact, I just posted something on Facebook. It was from I recorded it when I was 20, and it aired like a few months later when I turned 21. And people freaked out because they had not seen it before. And I was like a very young Joey. And I said, I'll post this stuff. Because what I think is nothing, people think is wow. But I've always been like that. I've never been like, a braggart but now everybody has to promote. I admire you, Mike, because you are like the master promoter. I admire that. I don't know how to do it.
I'm not a master promoter. I had to get a team of people to show me how to do it. My producer, who produces this show, Tatiana Bluchel, does my social media.
That's great.
And we have conversations about when to do it, how to do it.
Wow.
And it's a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes I do the wrong thing. I touch the wrong button. I put out a video at 10 o'clock when it should have went out at 12 o'clock.
Wow.
And then you get the phone call, would you stop touching your... And, but see how you said you have these classic clips.
Yeah.
That could be something phenomenal for you, because when you put those clips out, people could say, oh my gosh, I remember we used to go see him. Let's go see him now.
You're right. That's a good marketing tool. And I have them all, or 90% of them. I used to save the videotapes and I transferred them to DVD, and now digitized them.
Okay. I actually just did the same thing.
Yeah.
I took every VHS copy of anything that I've ever had.
Yeah.
Maybe you even remember the word 3/4 inch.
Oh, yeah.
At
I used to have a bunch of those.
Big things this big.
Yep.
And not only do you go to DVD, which is going to become obsolete, you put it on your hard drive.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money.
Yep.
You put everything on your hard drive, and if you can, start sending out little clips about when you were 17, 18, 19, 20. Start putting them out. You'll build a social media following that'll blow your mind.
Really good advice.
You know what else I think is great, and I hope that you do it? Lets people out there today realize you didn't come up with anything new. You saw older comedians back in the day do it. You rehashed it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I rehashed. I had like a really active imagination. So, I mean, my biggest comedy hero was Jonathan Winters.
Right.
And I ended up working with him on a cartoon show. I mean, I do voiceover is what I do, on an animated TV series called Little Dracula. And I got to sit next to my idol. I was like beside myself. It was like, we talked on breaks, and he just had me like laughing my ass off.
It's one thing to have an idol, but don't you eventually look at them and say, you know what? He's a human being.
Oh, yeah.
He's a human being.
I realized that right away, but still, it was exciting the first time to meet him.
Yeah.
Okay, but after working with him on 13 episodes, I mean, come on. We were fine after that. But my first initial of meeting him, I always wanted to meet him. And, of course, I look at them as human beings, but he was the only one out of all of them that I sort of idolized.
Yeah.
The other ones, I could care less, But Jonathan, oh my God.
Jonathan Winters.
Oh my God!
He was on a lot of TV shows.
If you're young
jolly, happy,
young people, you want to see a real comedian. You want to see a guy who could do characterizations, blow the audience away, sound effects, everything. I'm telling you, he influenced Lenny Bruce, Jim Carrey, even Richard Pryor. Jonathan Winters is just in a league of his own. He was
you ever meet Lenny Bruce?
No, Lenny Bruce. I was friends with. I'm still to this day, friends with his daughter Kitty. Kitty's a friend of mine. I met her when I was 19. I was friends with his mom, Sally Marr. I do a whole thing in my new play about those guys. It's a pretty funny story. But yeah, Kitty's really cool. She lives in the East Coast. And Yeah, his only daughter. Yeah, Lenny Bruce died in 1966, so there's no way I could have met him.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
died in 1966 of a drug overdose. But he was an influence to a lot of
Yeah.
comedians. Yeah,
This guy went to jail because he said fuck.
yeah. Yeah, more than that, he would taunt them and all that stuff. But he was a guy who did like I don't know how many albums he did, tons. And
So if you starting in 74, what was life like for you in the 80s? Where did you go? Did you go out on tour?
yeah,
Mostly movies or TV?
in the 80s, I did stuff like little movies, parts. Like Hollywood Nights was a movie I was in. Played a pledge in that and little things. I did the road a lot. I did because back then you could make good money and you didn't have to have an agent or anything. They just book you and you do like 4 weeks in Texas and come home with a bunch of cash.
Yeah, yeah.
They'd give you a condo to stay in, a car, and airfare and cash.
And all
Yeah,
drugs.
yeah. I didn't do drugs. No, I didn't.
You're a rare breed.
I didn't.
Especially at that era.
I didn't like all those guys were doing coke, and I'm like, get it away from me.
Yeah.
Get it away from me. It's like, no. Or I just say pass. Depending on whether because I was always the headliner in Texas.
Yeah.
So I was like, and you never, but what was scary was you never knew who they were going to have come in you had to share a condo with. And I was like, oh my God. Because it'd be like some guy that you just started doing comedy and not that's bad, but you don't know if they smoke.
Yeah,
and
you got to
drink
bring
and
somebody home.
Fuck out of my
Yeah.
face. I'd go. I'd be like a tyrant. Do not touch my stuff in the fridge. Like it's just like putting you with a stranger to spend a week with. So it was like those were the conditions then. And otherwise, sometimes I met some people who I'm still friends with to this day. They were really cool comics.
Do you have any titles of albums that you put out?
No, I never did any albums. I just I got really into the voiceover work, and my voiceover website is voicecomic.com. But my main focus these days, even though the show will air after it's performed, I'm doing a show in New York City this coming Saturday, November 9th. It's called Laughing Through the Pain, My Journey from Detroit to Hollywood Stand-Up Comedy and Beyond. I like the play format a lot.
It's like a one-man show?
It's a one-man show, and it's a serial comedy, so it's a serious comedy. I talk all about childhood abuse issues, what my father did to me, and I act out all the characters. I play my mom, I play my dad, I play all the black kids, because I grew up in black neighborhoods. So it's really about this Jewish kid who grew up in black neighborhoods in Detroit. I was like a unicorn or whatever you want to call it. I mean, all my friends were black. I was like, it was a little white kid a little white Jewish kid they all liked, and it was really a lot of fun.
Is this your first time doing a one-man show?
No. Years earlier, I did I actually did it in New York. It was called In the Hood with Mrs. Aronovitz. So I played 9 characters in that one.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be completely different?
Totally different. Different. Yeah, this is my life story. And it's based on my book, which is called Laughing Through the Pain, Stories of the Trenches of Hollywood Stand-Up Comedy and Beyond. That's on Amazon, Laughing Through the Pain. Joey Camen, Camen, Laughing Through the Pain. And
Laughing Through the Pain.
Yeah.
Which these days people need more laughter to get them through the pain
yes,
of what's
exactly.
going on in
and
the
it's
world.
It's been that way my whole life.
Yeah.
Having to deal with a lot of stuff. And look, what 17-year-old, who at 15 makes a plan to leave Detroit and move to California? Something's wrong. Didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I did it all on my own. I did everything on my own. No one helped me.
Yeah. Well, hey, sometimes we feel in this business that you are alone.
Oh,
because it's very difficult.
Comedians are always alone. They're loners. I mean,
yeah.
They're not. They write alone. They work alone. They rehearse alone. They're on stage alone. You're a loner.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree with that 100%. It's not like you could say to somebody, "Hey, I'm going to work. You want to go?"
Yeah.
Because it becomes a little like, gotta be by myself.
You do it yourself. Like my play, I wrote it myself. I performed it myself. And I'm even directing it myself.
This one-man show that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So Laughing Through the Pain, you talk about leaving your home situation. Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I had 2 brothers and a sister.
Had?
Oh, well, 2 of them are dead. One of them's alive.
All right. And your family life was difficult?
I'm married. And to a wonderful woman, Wendy, since 2002. And happy. So
you have children?
No kids.
What was it that in your home life that made you say, "Okay, I'm 17. See you, Bob. See you, Mom. I'm
Oh, I don't
leaving."
want to depress your audience.
Oh, okay. But this is in your show.
In my play, yeah, I talk
All right.
about things my father did and just stuff that most kids I didn't know. I mean, you reflect on your life when you're older. I think I was pretty much walking around with post-traumatic stress syndrome for years, and I didn't know it.
I probably didn't have those terms then.
They
either.
didn't have those terms then. You just didn't know. I mean, all I did was perform. So I kind of worked it out with comedy. I didn't start going to a therapist until the 80s. So yeah, I mean, you just don't realize until you start talking about, hey, guess this happened at home. This happened at home. It was a different time. More people now, they talk about it on the internet, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, guess what happened to me? No one cares, okay?
But when you create a show like this, why did you choose New York to do it? Why not
No, because
here in California?
I love New York City.
Right.
They get me more, New York. New York, they think I'm from there. They all treat me like I'm one of theirs, and the audiences are just incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I remember going years ago, I'd perform at the not a Catch Rising Star, the Comic Strip, which is a major club in New York City. I was friends with the owner, Richie Tinkin, and he saw me at the Comedy Store once, and he goes, hey, anytime you want to come to my club, you can get on, anytime. So I'd go to New York, and it's a big place. I mean, it was like the top club in New York, that and the Improv. And so I go in on a Saturday night, and this guy named Lucian, he was like a legend there, okay?
I heard the name. I never met him.
I go on, and I didn't bump anybody. I just said, I called in. I said, Lucian, Richie Tinkin says to put me on. If you want, you can call him, or I'll call him right now. No. Okay. So, and he didn't like that because, first of all, I'm a Comedy Store guy, and these guys all would die to be in the Comedy Store. So they put me on, and I did a good show. And I get off stage, hey, bring that guy back up there. Hey, come on, hey, yeah. I was screaming, and I said, did a really good show. And I had some friends that I knew, these actresses that were off Broadway actors. They came to the show. It was really fun. And you're supposed to get $10. So I go up to Lucian. I said, can I have my $10? He goes, no. I said, come on, I want my $10. No. And there's some comic standing there. He goes, I said, I'm just going to call Richie right now. And he goes, hey, Lucian, I think you better pay him his $10. The guy was a prick. He wouldn't give me my $10. $10. And the owner says to do it. How crazy is that?
That's showbiz.
Exactly. These people have attitudes.
That hasn't changed
nothing. yet. Yeah. It's but I always was appreciated more in New York than I have been here, even though I've done well here, and just basically working the Comedy Store. See, it gets boring after a while. I mean, I enjoy the stage every time I step on the stage, but I did it years and years and years. So New York is different for me. New York is more exciting. There's more energy in the city. It's condensed. There's people. It's life. LA, you got to get in the car and drive. New York, yeah. I mean, I'm still looking at look at this whole building. Like I'm a little kid.
What is the theater that you are going to do the show at?
It's called United Solo. It's in Theater Row, 42nd Street, 410 West 42nd Street.
So it's right in the heart of Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. It's nice.
And how many seats?
I think it only seats about 80. It's a small theater,
right?
But it's Theater Row's.
So how many performances did you schedule?
I'm just doing one.
One?
Just one performance, and I've been rehearsing my butt off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, of course, this podcast is going to air after his performance because we didn't have enough time to get Joey on the show to help promote what he's doing in New York. And it's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
You got people coming who are going to do reviews and, I don't know, you're going to film it?
Yeah, I'm going to film it. Yeah, I hired a guy in New York to come do a 2-camera shoot.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, and I'll get some video out of that, and that'll be fun. But it's very dramatic. It's called a serial comedy. Is a serious comedy, and so I have big laughs, a lot of seriousness, tears. So it's a dramatic comedic performance, and I enjoy doing.
Are you going to be
a
doing
lot.
any of your voices, like maybe some voices from a cartoon or some of the characters that you have been doing all these years?
No, I imitate my teacher. I imitate Yogi Berra and Huckleberry Hound. I do a whole thing about him in there. But no, basically, it's a play is my life and comedy, and people I've worked with, and doing. It's really about a kid who grew up in very difficult circumstances in Detroit, abusive dad, and had the initiative at a very young age to plan at 15 to move away, become a stand-up comedian, and actually did it, and didn't get a dime from his parents, and moved to Los Angeles not knowing anyone, and started working at the
Made your
Comedy
living
Store.
as an entertainer.
Yeah. So it's a journey for people to see and possibly
And how
learn
long,
something from it and say, hey, maybe I can get out of that situation I'm in.
how long are you going to be on stage for?
Well, it's a long show.
Oh, really?
It's over 100 minutes.
Wow.
2 acts. In fact, I just rehearsed this morning. The
You
first
take a
act.
break?
Oh yeah, I did about 60, 65 minutes. Then we take a break and go back for another 40 or so.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's a long show.
Yeah, but it's intense, and I enjoy doing it a lot. It's a lot of fun. I put out a lot of energy.
Where did you workshop it?
I didn't even workshop it in my apartment.
In my apartment.
In my apartment. Look, I've been performing since for almost 50 years. This is no big deal.
No director?
The hardest part. No, the hardest part is marketing.
Yeah.
Performing is fun.
What would you do? Full wall the theater and say, okay, give me my night.
No, this festival is called United Solo. It's the world's largest solo festival in the world. It's been going on, I think, 17 years in New York City. So it's very well known. They have a little marketing thing, and you pay a fee and that kind of stuff. But they have to accept you. They read the script and and I know other comedians that have done it. A buddy of mine wanted to know Steve Greenstein. He did his comedian. He just did his show in this past spring and won an award for the show.
Greenstein.
Yeah. Big, giant dude. He's like 6'4". Steve's a big dude. I'm going to be hanging out with him in New York. I haven't seen him in years. He used to be at the Comedy Store.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It sounds familiar, the name.
Yeah. You know him if you met him. He's a big guy. And he's very funny.
Steve Greenstein.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me some of the other names that were coming at the Comedy Store when you were there.
God. If you want to go way back.
Were you before, like, let's say, Sam Kinison?
Oh, fuck yeah. Look, man, when I was there, when I first started, these are the people that came there after me. Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, David Letterman. I saw him do like his first couple times he was on stage. Leno was there when I was there. He was a really cool guy. I love Jay Leno. I think he's one of the funniest people I've ever seen on stage. That guy could do 90. He did a lot of time at the Comedy Store. He got a lot of time. Jay Leno, most people know him from the Tonight Show and see him doing his little bits and stuff, but no. If you see him live on stage back then, he would do 90 minutes like it was nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Non-stop laugh. He was the comedian. Now that was the comedian's comedian. People would sit in the back, and Letterman loved him. Idolized Jay Leno. Idolized Jay Leno. Who else? I mean, there was a black comedian who I worked with when I was there. Franklin Ajayi is hilarious. He was kind of like a young Richard Pryor type. Franklin Ajayi did a few albums back. Franklin Ajayi is funny as fuck. He moved to Australia and was kind of a big deal down there for a while. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't seen him in years. He is so funny. I used to hang out with that guy. So those were the comedians that are famous that came there when I was there, or I was there before them.
The comedians that I always admired or heard of that were before my time, I would see. Is it Lester Lewis? Lester and the...
Oh, Willie Tyler and Lester?
Willie Tyler
He's a good friend
and
of mine.
Lester. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I hope he's still around.
No, yeah. Willie's like 82. He lives in the Valley. And I talk to him every few months.
Yeah.
And Willie Tyler and Lester is the most famous ventriloquist in the world and probably the best living ventriloquist in the world.
Yeah. We used to see him... When I first started the Comedy Store,
great
he was
guy.
closing the main room.
Yeah.
And, I guess...
If he's plugging something, I can get him to come on here.
Maybe that would be a good idea. I wonder if he remembers me. I did get to see him. I used to see these cats and, of course, Paul Mooney. And I never met Richard Pryor, but I never met Sam Kinison. I eventually met Andrew Dice Clay, and we ended up working together quite often. But
I knew all those guys.
there was like a Carl LeBeau was like one of the big names that I thought I saw there,
Uh-huh.
and he was just finishing what they were calling the Sam Kinison tour, and
The Crack Pack is what that was.
yeah,
That's what we used to call them, the Crack Pack.
yeah,
Bunch of drug addicts.
Crack Pack.
Don't go on tour with Sam Kinison.
yeah, he won't come back.
Yeah.
Which ended up killing him, I guess, somehow.
One of them. Yeah. I knew Sam.
Um,
I've got stories on everyone and stories that you don't need to know.
no, because now we want them. Everybody's watching, going, "Come on, give us the stories."
No.
But the interesting thing is when you started, because it was so new.
Yeah.
The live type performing at that place.
Yeah.
And it's still going.
Yeah.
So you probably knew the owner's son or 3 sons and daughter.
Oh, for sure. I know them all.
Yeah. And then Paulie, of course, became the Weasel.
Yeah. And that's an appropriate nickname.
The Weasel?
Oh, for sure.
The Wheeze, right?
Whatever.
When he was on MTV.
Yeah. Well, the one that runs it is his older brother, Peter. You never hear about him. Peter Shore is 2 years older. He's the CEO of the club now.
He is.
And yeah, he is a nice man, family man, and smart. Okay. So Peter is the guy that runs the joint. You just never hear about him. Okay. He's the CEO of the Comedy Store. The older son, Scotty, he's in real estate, lives down in La Jolla, California. And the daughter, Sandy, this is how crazy Mitzi is. Her daughter's name, this is her real name, Sandy Seashore. That's her name.
She passed away.
Yeah, she died like a year after her mom, or 6 months. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Really?
Right after her mom. Sandy passed away. She was very sweet. She was teaching comedy for a while.
Yeah.
And she'd have a class up in the belly room. So I went and helped her out, and I went in there and talked to the students, and it was interesting, but whatever. I wanted to see what these students or people that are paying to learn stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Which I'm not a fan of at all. I mean,
you could be taught to a degree.
Yeah. You can either do it or you don't. You either have the passion. Because look, you have to sacrifice a lot if you want to be a stand-up comedian, especially nowadays. Everybody's like, on my social media. Look. Bottom line, are you funny? Are you fucking funny?
Yeah.
And most of the answer is no. And they have these bringer shows, these shows where you have to bring people to get on stage. Oh my God, that's a nightmare.
They didn't have that when you started.
No, you either were a performer at the Comedy Store, the Improv, and that was it.
One of the most difficult things is to do the bringer shows because it's all up to you to bring the people.
Yeah, bring the people.
And then you got to pay to
for a
get
guy
on
like
stage.
me who hates promoting. I'm like, you gotta buy 2 drinks and pay to see me. Get the fuck out of here. But that's the way the world is now. I mean, look, New York City, most of them are bringer shows. Except for I don't even know what main clubs are there anymore. I really don't. That's why I like this format. I mean, that's why I like the play format. I like telling a story with an audience and they listen. They're not worried about drinks and, having to go on after some guy that just, said pussy 5,000 fucking times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, look, I'm not really jaded. It's just that I'm on another place in my life.
Yeah, well, the world has changed.
Yeah.
And you still like doing what we used to do because live performing is the most gratifying rather than taping it and having other people watch it because there's something about the thunder of the room and the night.
Yeah. The laughter and the immediate feedback of the audience is a lot of fun.
Well, once you're done with your one-man show, what's the future of you? What are you doing?
Well, is to continue the one-man show, and hopefully we'll be able to get producers involved.
Bring it to different parts of the country.
And basically I'd love to get a run in New York City, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever, in a nice theater. So that's one of my goals. That's all I'm focusing on. And I've written screenplays and things like that. And, I've been trying to get a movie made for a while, but isn't everyone in Hollywood? But I've been at this game a while, but I still enjoy it. That's the main thing. I still have fun.
What's the situation with your voiceovers? Tell us about what the popular voices
the voiceover
done.
work. If you they've got over 122 credits on IMDb. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, I've done. Jesus Christ, I was a Smurf. I was the original natural Smurf.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I've let's see. I'd have to go. It's not that I forget. It's that I don't care that much. I know that sounds bad, but let's see. Stuff I'm the voice of McGruff the crime dog. I did McGruff.
Hold it. We got to explain that because I know who McGruff is.
Yeah.
He was the guy who did the commercials.
Yeah, I was one of them. There were
Oh.
several people did it. The original guy, he died a long time ago, and I replaced him back in the 90s for PSA, public service announcements.
Yeah, but they were ongoing. There was a dog. He
Yeah.
was like beige.
Yeah,
I forgot what kind of
McGruff,
dog.
the crime dog,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
with Mike Marino on the case. We can all take a bite out of crime.
Yes, that was it. Take a bite out of crime.
Yeah, so I mean, but I only did it for several times.
And they taped that here in California?
Yeah, I did
Because that
some
was like
stuff in
such a big
California.
New York thing.
No, it's all over the country.
Was it?
Yeah.
I remember
It
seeing
was
that.
really wild. Like I did it for a while, and then I stopped, and because they have to approve the voice. Now, this is the weirdest thing ever with voiceover. When they picked me back up to do some PSAs for like the internet, they go, "Okay, Joey, this is great. You're doing a good job. We have to get the voice proved because it's in Washington D.C. It's a classic character. You can't really swear in the voice or anything like that. You can get in trouble." So they had to approve me by the Department of Justice. The DOJ had to listen to my audition.
McGruff.
They said, okay, he's good. He's good to go. So that's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me with an audition, or one of the weirdest things that's ever happened. The Department of Justice had to say, okay, he's good. We got it. We like him. And okay. And she called me back and said, hey, Joey, okay, we're good to go. Well, isn't that crazy? You know, and Scott, for younger people, video games, I've done stuff like Devil May Cry 5, Skylanders. I did a bunch of voices on that. Mafia 2.
Oh,
I
wow.
did voices on that. Transformers. Forget what that one was called. I did the voice of the Thing once on a Marvel thing. So I did a Sopranos thing. They're video games. They're fun. You go in the studio, you record the voice, and you leave. And then it comes out, and you see it.
And you never get to meet the person who's got that voice, but now you are. He's sitting right here.
Yeah.
I remember at the Comedy Store, there was a guy who was known for one specific voice. Maybe he's a friend of yours. He used to go all over the light for a long period of time. And all the new and up-and-coming guys couldn't get on stage because he would just take so long.
I know who you're talking about. Charles
Fleischer.
Yeah.
And then he would sing, and then he would do his stand-up, and then he'd take out a harmonica.
And go for 20 minutes.
Yes. And all the young up-and-coming comedians are like,
totally fucking crazy. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's totally crazy. I wasn't good friends with him. Of course, I talked to him many, many, many times, but he wasn't one of the guys I hung out with. But I know Charlie, sure. Yeah.
You must be friends with Charles Fleischer. Was the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
But he was a stand-up comic. He had been in a couple of movies too.
Yeah.
Probably a lot. I just only remember a few. I think he did one with Robin Williams.
I don't know.
He was a bad guy. He played a villain. But then there was another guy who I thought was really funny, and he was a pretty big name at the Comedy Store when I was coming up. You're probably friends with him too. I can't think of his name, but he did this thing about gay gangs, and they would throw mashed potato. It was the funniest thing. And he did voices, but in his act.
I don't know who that is.
He was also in that movie Bachelor Party.
I'm not sure.
Bachelor Party. I'll remember it when we're done recording.
Yeah.
But I bet you're friends with him. It seemed like that would be your era of guys.
No, I know who you're talking about, and I'd rather not say his name.
Oh.
Because they won't give me breath. That's why I say I don't give breath to people that won't give me breath.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, I don't.
No, I wouldn't either, and I get that.
Yeah.
But they should.
Look, let me tell you something. There's a lot of guys I know. Look, when you're working night after night for years, sometimes decades, with the same people, there's people you like and there's people you don't. There's comedians, it's like, you work with a lot of comedians. There's comedians you like who are very funny on stage, off stage, they're pricks. Or there's the people that you really like are the ones who are funny on stage and super nice people off stage that you can hang out with. But when the public doesn't know, they don't care. They just want to laugh. They don't need to know what the person's personality is like. So I really don't like talking in interviews about people that I don't really care for as a human being.
Yeah.
I really don't. And that's fine. So what am I going to say? I know them. Did you see them mention me in an interview? I really don't care.
Yeah.
That's not to have an attitude. It's just like, why talk about someone you don't like? I'm sure there's comedians you can't fucking stand. Like, hey, let's talk about them. You go, no, forget about it. Hey, Joey, fuck them.
I just like to think about who was around that club at that time. I love history. I love to see where things come
Mooney
from.
was the funny. Paul I hung out with probably more than anybody.
Yeah.
And he was one of the nicest people. See, when you're a young kid going into any kind of work, and I was doing the job of people in their 20s and 30s. So there were some guys that didn't like me, couldn't stand me because they didn't know how to relate to me. They would have talked to a 17, nobody had a kid there my age, so they didn't talk to me. So they're kind of like rude to me. But the people that were really nice to me and were just friendly and helped me out were like Paul Mooney, Tom Dreesen, who's a really cool guy. Still friends with him today, Willie Tyler and Lester. Guys like that. So it's like, it's different. I came up in a different era.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still having fun. That's the whole thing.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you're enjoying this career because, it can be tough. But you do get to hang around with people.
You're a road guy.
Fun.
I mean, you do on the road a lot, and that's rough. And people don't understand what Mike does. I mean, Mike's on the road doing gigs and promoting himself. And it's very hard. It's taxing on the body and the emotional stress and, trying to make sure the seats are filled and all that stuff. It's hard work. It's hard work.
Trying to stay on top of your game.
It's hard work what he does. And I admire that. Really, I really do. It's not one of my skill sets. But I'm trying. With this play I'm doing. It's forced me to make new videos, show videos, and get me out of my shell. So yeah, it's been good.
Don't cut yourself short because if you do videos, a guy like me, let's say, just me alone, you put something on YouTube that you did in the 70s or the 80s, I'm going to look at it in seconds.
I just did.
Because I want to see. I want to see what everybody
I just
did.
put a video up on YouTube and on Joey Camen on Camen on Facebook. And all my people, it was from my first national television appearance, which was in 1977. I was 20 years old. I did Don Kirshner's rock concert. And I dressed up like this little kid, and I spit a tennis ball in my mouth, and I tell the story of how Christopher Columbus discovered America, and I changed my voice from a little kid like this to a black man like this to a guy like this. And I did it all in 3 minutes. And I'm 20 years old. I look like I'm 16. People were freaking out because I forgot about this. And this is how I started. And this is how Mitzi's thought that this guy's, I have notes from her saying, "Oh, you're doing wonderful. You're my protege, Joey." It's like, so, she just liked me a lot, but I was funny. It's not like she, it's not like there's people she did not like. Oh my God. Oh, I was telling one guy on that podcast, she used to treat some of the New York comics like shit. If they had attitudes, you do not come into Mitzi Shore's room with a fucking attitude. Now, I'll tell you one guy. Now, I'll tell you these two stories. Want to hear this? Even if they were big stars, she could kill us. It's her room. You can't have attitude. This is LA. This is not New York. You're not going to get your way here. Even though, what's his name? I'll never forget. Dennis Miller, who was a big star on Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
This is all, and he had big management too. So this is the only reason he got on. She made him perform as an MC, an opening act only in the main room. That was it. He should have been headlining. He should have been closing. No. And he had to bring me on. And all he was doing in the back of the main room was like, "Mitzi doesn't like me." He was whining like a little bitch. And then he introduces me and he said some smart ass shit about me because I used to come up, "I dress like an old Jewish lady and I would, and I would do this character Jewish thing." And he said some smart ass shit about me. And then the audience didn't even laugh. They didn't like him. And, but he was complaining constantly. And then she actually told me this. It was a private conversation. She didn't like Gilbert Gottfried that much. So Gilbert Gottfried was a big star in New York. She made him work in the belly room.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
The belly room, ladies and gentlemen, is the Comedy Store's got 3 rooms in the main on Sunset Strip. It's the original room, which is the original Comedy Store, and then there's the main room. And then you go up the steps in the middle of the room. It's called the belly room. It's in the belly of the building. It's about 50, 60 seats. And Mitzi used to do wonderful things for female comics. She used to put on these shows. The girls of the Comedy Store, and they all work out there. And it wasn't prestigious to work up there if you're a guy, whatever. I'm not being not being sexist or anything, but I'm just serious. It wasn't prestigious, the great room to work. So she used to make Gilbert Gottfried work in the belly room. And then she told me, she goes, "I told him he wants to work my room. He's got to open his eyes on stage." That's what she said. These guys, because she was totally serious. I started laughing because she was like, she wasn't kidding. She was not kidding, because he would, he's like, she told him, you want to work my room, open your eyes on stage or forget it. And he couldn't do it. And how funny is that?
Gilbert Gottfried.
How funny is that, though? Think about it. She was so wacky, Mitzi.
The Belly Room in the Comedy Store is very small. And it was considered the smallest performance place in the actual establishment, which meant you were not that great, let's say.
But so she
had open mics in
But how
there.
funny is that? She only made him work in there. And if you had an attitude, just forget about it. I mean, countless times they sat in the back of the room with her, and some guy would come like from New Jersey or Wisconsin or something. He's the big deal in that town.
Yeah.
He waited 6 months. He saved up all his money, maybe moved so he could showcase for Mitzi. They don't know how fucking nuts she is. So I'd be talking to her, and she'd be talking. I go, Mitzi, the guy came from Wisconsin. Watch his act, please. She's trying to want to talk to me. Watch his act. So I'm like, I'm saving the guy, right? So she can see maybe, something can happen with the guy. The guy'd get off stage, and he goes, Mitzi, what'd you think? And you're not ready. Come back in 6 months. Cold as a snake. But she would do that. I saw her do that so many times to people. And I feel sorry for the guys. But, a lot of times there was no room for them. But if they were really, really good, they'd get on. They'd become a regular right away. If they were really, really good, like a pro from Chicago or other guys that I knew, they got on right away. And she'd start working.
The lines to audition for the Comedy Store back in that time was around the block. I mean, I don't know about when you went, but when I remember when I went, it was probably like 1992, 93. I actually auditioned because a friend of mine got me the audition. He was Mitzi's accountant, and he saw me somewhere teaching comedy traffic school. And then he said, you should probably come over to the Comedy Store. And I said, I technically really don't even want to be a comedian. I just needed a part-time job as I pursue my career as an actor.
Yeah.
He goes, you got some comedy chops. You should come over. So I went over there, and when I did my audition, I didn't pass. But she did say to me, I like what you sound like because you don't sound like you look that time.
Yeah.
And I says, well, I don't even know if I'm really interested in doing this. She goes, well, why don't you come back in a couple of weeks? We'll try it again. So I'm back in a couple of weeks, but I was so irritated with what was going on in my life that I said, I hate California. I don't like the pizza. I'm always in traffic. Everybody thinks I'm Irish. I'm Italian. I wanted to play a hitman. I'm always a cop. I'm always this and that. And I walked off the stage and she goes, okay, great. It's like, really? Yeah. She goes, because that's who you are.
Yeah, good. No, you never know where it's going to come from, and you never know what your journey is going to be.
Yeah.
It's really something. But
I'm glad that you have made your living the entertainment business pretty much your whole life.
Yeah, pretty much.
And from 17, you would think a 17-year-old's not even allowed to go into a place where they serve alcohol.
I wasn't. But they didn't care.
Is that right?
Mitzi didn't care.
Nobody asked?
I was supposed to have no.
Have a glass of milk and go on stage, kid.
No, they didn't really care. They didn't really care. She didn't care. She thought I was funny and just put him up there. I was just wild. I was a wild kid.
The good old days, the fun days. We gotta look at what he has, because now he's bitten with this new social media bug. You got to put everything up on the internet so that we can see it and enjoy it. Don't deprive people of the way things were when you were doing it.
Yeah.
Because there should be a large amount of comedians who want to know, because they'll say, see, that's where that style originated from. That's what they were doing. Instead of like when you see something today, they think, oh, that's genius. No, they probably saw some comedians from back in the day. And we all have characters on the internet that we're envious of, like the comedians he was talking about. I mean, I love watching Tommy Dreesen. I like that classic style of stand-up, right? And you mentioned his name.
Yeah.
And there are some guys that we thought were great that the audiences these days might not like at all.
Right.
But back in that time, it was what worked at that time.
And the whole political correctness thing with the canceling and all that stuff, it's just garbage.
It is.
It's like, it's just ridiculous.
Well, hopefully it'll all change and we can go back to doing what we want to do.
Yeah,
More importantly now, tell everybody where they can find this classic stuff that you're going to constantly upload on YouTube and Facebook and all your social
Sure.
media so that we could see.
It's Camen TV, Camen TV on YouTube.
Camen TV. He's got his own TV channel.
Yeah.
Camen TV.
Yeah.
Guys, I want you to go to Camen TV and watch what Joey's doing. Hopefully, he's really going to put up these classic videos so that we can watch. Because who doesn't like watching a classic movie? Who doesn't want to watch a classic TV show? Now you're going to get to watch a classic comedian. Maybe at a time where you didn't think he was filmed, because there wasn't anybody. What do we have? Like Polaroids and Kodachrome. We got it. It's on tape, so we can actually watch it.
Yeah, I've got stuff, that was on major networks, so...
Hopefully they give you the rights to it and you could take it.
Well, yeah, I had tapes of it all, and it's okay to put it up, stuff, I guess fair use or something. I'm not really sure. But because the stuff is so old, they don't really care.
Yeah, they might not. But see, the thing is, nowadays, you put it up on the internet, you can monetize it, and you can get paid.
Yeah.
And you should.
Yeah.
Do the voices. Tell us about those cartoons again.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and plug your sites. Tell everybody where they can find you again and again and again. We wish you all the greatest of luck. Unfortunately, this is going to air after the show that he's going to do in New York, but who knows? Maybe they're going to pick him up and give him a 6-week run or 8-week run or whatever you wanted in New York City, which is the place to be.
Well, for my voiceover site, which has links to like everything, like all my books and everything, because I'm also an author. I've written 2 books. And all my social media is voicecomic, VoiceComic.com. And my YouTube channel is Camen TV. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff under my name, Joey Camen, Camen. Pronounced like the Cayman Islands.
The Cayman Islands. I will never screw that up again.
Actually, I went to the Cayman Islands. And it's funny because I took a picture and it says Cayman Islands. So then I posted all that. I said, I finally got to say this, Joey Camen in the Cayman Islands. So,
Well, I wish I could go see the show in New York. I love to sit and watch somebody else's work because it's an education. You learn and you say, hey, these are things that I wish I could do. Eventually, then we start doing it. Yeah. So go out there, everybody, log on to Joey Camen, watch his stuff, stay in touch. We got to get going. I want to thank you so much for coming down the basement. I really appreciate you coming over. Thank you for your compliments. Let's make America Italian again, ladies and gentlemen. You know the motto. You don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my broadcasts? By saying the same thing with my guest. I didn't get to fill him in, so we're going to say it together right now. It's, I don't take no shit. No, don't take no shit from nobody. You ready?
Yeah. Don't take no shit from nobody.
I really believed him more than I believed myself. He had that down. Hey, folks, thanks for watching live from my mother's basement. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, hit the word like and leave me a really cool comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the future episodes, and you can watch some of the funniest videos on the internet. You can also listen to the show on Spotify or your favorite podcast app.